Hello, my name is Humza, and I'll be explaining my final project in this video. I'll be going through the code and explaining all the learning outcomes I use and where I use them and why they were necessary for that part of the code. And I'll also be running through my code multiple times to show you the different outcomes that you can get. So I chose the advanced collage as my project, and my collage features three images. On the left side is the concert image, and this has the filter, my custom filter that I created for this project, which is half the image gets brighter, and then the right side of the image gets darker. Left side gets brighter, obviously. And then on the right side of the collage is this is where the GUI comes into play. Here I'll show right now. If you run the advanced collage class, which is my custom class for the code, you get this GUI user choice, which image should be featured in the collage with the grayscale applied, either the city image or the flower image. And this is seen on the right side of the collage. And this is how user input obviously plays into the project. And then in the center is the cat image with the shrunk and inverse filter applied to it. So for the first run, I'll just show city image, choose city image. And here's the collage. I'll shrink it a little bit so it can all be seen in frame. Here's the city image with the grayscale applied. Here's the cat image shrunk and inverse colors applied. And then the left side, you can see the left side brightened of this image, and then the right side darkened of the concert image. So this is the collage. And then if you go into I'm pulling it up on the side. If you go into the final project code, you can see it saves as a JPEG. Malhi, that's my last name, advanced collage.jpg. And now you have the project or the image, the collage saved as a JPEG image. And I'll run it one more time to show. If you choose flower image, obviously you'll get the flower instead of the city. So now I'll go through the code a little bit, explain my all my uses of the learning outcomes, and obviously you can see all my comments that depict describe everything that's going on, and within the methods and the classes. So this is the advanced collage, or I'll actually start with the picture one. I think that's better to start with. So these are all the constructors and stuff. So if we go into methods, my first method is grayscale. Did I miss anything? Yeah, my first method is grayscale. And obviously it's a use of LO3 writing methods, because all the code within is the method. And another use, and this is seen throughout, this isn't the only example of LO3, obviously, because I have tons of methods throughout this code. And then also variables, I have tons of variables, but here's an example of LO1 with variables, pixel, which is needed, obviously, if I want to get the average of all the colors and then divided by 3, which is how grayscale is done. I need to create the variable for pixel to divide it. And then here's another example of me writing methods, variables obviously within as well. And then these are just the methods I have. Obviously the ones I described. Here's my custom one, brighten, darken. Then this moves on to the final collage. This is the method that puts all the images together. And here's an example of LO5, which is loops. There's some above too, but here's just an example of a nested loop, as there's for loop and then another for loop within that for loop. And it shows my use of LO4 as I use arrays to get the pixels, and then get on from there. And then you can see all the for loops. There's 3 different ones. And yeah, a lot of the LOs I use that I described here are used within every method. So, and then we moved on to the advanced collage. This one has a lot more uses. And here's LO8, user defined classes, advanced collage, custom class that I created for this project. And And then here's my use of LO12 as I described earlier with the GUI, which is user input for my project. And then here's just all the code that I use to create the GUI, which there's a lot of commenting within to display the purpose of everything here. Here's a use of LO2, which is using methods. And I have all of my filters being applied here, besides grayscale, which is that comes after the GUI, obviously. Here's an if-else statement, and that's an example of LO7, which is conditional execution. And this is needed because obviously there's two options that can be chosen based on the user input. If the picture becomes city, then this is the JPEG file of the city image, and then here's the one for flower pick. And then here is an example of LO11, which is exception handling. This is just for some reason if the images can't be found or anything like that, then error loading image will come up, and then you'll return. So this is needed just in case somehow the files get lost, which obviously it shouldn't ideally, because all of these images and the other ones that are being called are within the folder for the file. Here is me. Oh, here's after the user input is chosen, and which defines what P3 will be. Grayscale is applied to that P3, and then here's an displaying my use of LO6 user input as the listeners, based on the listeners being added just for the GUI, which is the whole thing is user input, but I just decided to write my comment right here. Then obviously the GUI becomes visible. And I want to go back to the GUI, which the reason why I used a GUI here is because obviously the project needs user input, and I thought this would be a perfect way of clearly showing the two choices of images by writing city image or rose image, and it makes it look overall clean and just easy for the user to choose whatever they decide they want to put into the collage. And the reason I needed a custom class is because to make it be able to void the main strings and run the code and have the GUI be run. And then I use the methods from my picture class within here to create the collage. And that should be all of my code explained, showing where I use all of my LOs and why they are necessary, and running the code multiple times. So that is my final project and all of the factors that go into it. And thank you for watching my video.